All right, I want to talk about quarterbacks. You okay with that?
Sure.
All right, so we're going to cover like Quinn Ewers and Jalen Milroe in a preview later, so we're not going to talk about them here. But there's plenty of other first week new quarterback action to discuss, and everybody's going to say, "Let's go to Kyle McCord, Ohio State." Let's start with Drew Allar at Penn State. Here's a guy who we had a lot of question marks based on just how he did in mop-up duty. His numbers weren't great last year, but we saw the talent there. Josh, this game was kind of clunky and a little bit ugly. Yes, they covered. It was a weird game. In a lot of ways, it felt like one of those tune-up games. Even though it's a West Virginia, it's a Power Five opponent. What I saw from Aller was a lot of arm talent, and I saw two things, Josh. One, he had some really good throws on intermediate routes. He had the one bomb that was a great catch and a moonwalk into the end zone. If you watch his film, he made a lot of really good decisions on balls that were dropped, which long term, big picture is really encouraging. Short term, it's frustrating because you want the momentum, you don't want the drive killers. The drops weren't great. But the other thing that I saw that really impressed me for a first year starter was his ability to climb the pocket. The footwork was there. The offensive line didn't play great at times, and when the pocket collapsed around him, he climbed the pocket, kept his eyes up, and that's a senior level, and I say senior, someone with a lot of experience level sort of move that you don't see from fresh faced quarterbacks. Tell me what you felt about Drew Allar's first game as a starter.
Yeah, I think Aller looked good. We had sort of pointed out the fact that the yard per attempt story for Aller coming into last year wasn't necessarily that encouraging, but that didn't pan out, and that was kind of the other side we talked about too, right? That when you have these games where you come in as a backup and you're playing someone like Michigan, it's not really a fair thing to evaluate Aller running a team that's built for Clifford in a game where you're already losing against an overmatched opponent. And a lot of his statistics last year came from that. West Virginia may not be the greatest team on the planet. I don't think they are, but 11.2 yards per attempt is impressive. And so I think the biggest thing to me was that he put a lot of balls on the money. His footwork was good. He looked sound as a passer. The offense looked consistent. I don't think West Virginia is a particularly good team. It's hard to evaluate again because it's week one. But just like with the Shador Sanders discussion we had earlier, if you play a not good team and you still throw at that level, then you're doing really well. And that's what Aller did. And again, to the Shador Sanders perspective, right? Aller had 11.2 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns. He had only 325 yards, but he also only threw 29 times. He didn't throw, 47, I think, that Sanders threw. But his yard per attempt average was higher than Sanders. His touchdown to pat completion ratio was higher than Sanders. So in many ways, he had a better day than Sanders did. And I don't say that to knock Sanders. I just mean to put in perspective how well Aller looked on the stat sheet. So it at the very least, it has to be extremely encouraging given what's been causing Penn State fans to pull their hair out over the last few years in the passing game.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say, just like we said in the Colorado TCU recap, it's fair to say, look, don't overreact. You're not going to have a guy throw for 10, 11 yards an attempt every week. And let's celebrate the fact, because like a lot of the young guys come in and they just look bad, even against bad defenses, because they don't process the game quickly enough. And I think from that standpoint, you saw from Aller that he did process. Same thing with Sanders. He did process. So that is at least is one kind of hurdle cleared. Josh, talking about Penn State and what we've seen from them for years now, the one encouraging thing I saw if I'm a Penn State fan was, well, I've got two for you. One, we talked about how it might be the case that there's not that big of a fall off or a huge replacement concern at wide receiver. And I think we saw that. The wide receivers looked great in space. I thought they got off the line really well. I think that they're going to be okay. The other thing I noticed, and this is where I really want you to dive in, is it's hard to quantify the feeling I've had for Penn State's offense under Sean Clifford for years, the best thing I can say is it's just grindy. Everything felt hard. Like every first down, every touchdown felt like it was a lot more work than it needed to be. And with Allar, I feel like there are more opportunities for smooth and seamless verticality and more, not just explosive plays, but everything running on schedule in a way. And again, it's hard for me to put my finger on it, but everything running on schedule in a way that I didn't feel like it was under Clifford. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you saw.
I think that's all fair. And the biggest thing that I'll note on that, the receivers looked improved, but this is a West Virginia team that was 117th in the country in yards per attempt allowed. That was looking down the pipe here.
TCU bad?
Well, worse. I mean, that was fourth worst, I think, in Power Five. They were one spot ahead of Miami, Arkansas, Colorado, and Vandy are the only teams behind them. So this was one of the worst pass defenses in the country, Vandy level bad, as we would say, a season ago. So it's hard to take too much away because I thought the receivers did look good, but this is the problem, that everything in college football is relative, and the secondary at West Virginia is quite poor. So again, my takeaway on all this really is they looked sound and competent. Allar looked like he's in control of the offense. To your point, a lot of quarterbacks when they come in, when even playing bad competition, just look bad because if you don't know how to run the offense at a competent level, you won't throw the ball on anyone. And so the first checkbox is when you play inferior competition, can you put up high numbers? And they did. Can you get separation? And they did. So that's good. Check. The next question is when you play superior competition, can you get enough separation to have an option to throw the ball? And when you don't get separation, because it's going to happen, how does Allar react when his primary or secondary reads aren't available? Does he know how to throw the ball away? Does he know how to force a check down on a read when the primary reads aren't there or when there's pressure? That's the thing that you've got to wonder at this point. So this is the first few weeks of the season, slowly checking off these boxes and evaluating players. And that's where we're at with Allar. So if he's checked every box that's in front of him so far, but there's a lot more boxes to check and a lot more evaluation to be done. But it's certainly encouraging for a team that we felt like was ready to be taking a step forward this year. We were very positive in our preview for a reason.